And this is a simple tool you can use. Again, our students get it all built into their planning system. And it's basically just 3 things that you should check every day. So effectively, you should be checking your plan of action. You should have a daily task list. You should have a monthly, weekly, daily task list. Every day before you go to bed at the night, you should know what you are doing tomorrow. And one of the techniques to avoiding burnout is not carrying that confusion home. Because when you don't have it written down clearly, and you don't actually end every day, this is a habit, a ritual that you create, that you end every workday, whatever time that is for you, by going through the list of everything that you need to do tomorrow and reprioritizing and making sure when you wake up in the morning, you know exactly what you're going to do. If you don't have that ability to let go of that, your conscious brain tries to keep it up front all the time, which just burns energy the whole time. And you are sitting with your wife telling you something, you're not even hearing a single thing she's saying, right? You're sitting with your kids thinking that you're playing with them, but actually you're sitting on your computer while they watch TV. You are not engaging, and you're often not engaging with the things that actually you value, that are important to you. Because you may not value the wife and kids, I understand, we really discussed that. But you're going to not engage with the thing because you're going to be sitting in stress trying to remember, what have I got to do tomorrow? Don't forget what's important tomorrow. And this thing up here, surely you've realized, is a friggin' nut house. To try and run through your life and remember everything that you have to do in sequence and order, it's never going to happen. And if you want to feel overwhelmed, just carry on doing that. That's why you keep getting it. If you end it every day by defining what you have to do tomorrow, and I do it sort of like, I know generally for the whole next week or 2 weeks, but I always look at, prioritize the top things for tomorrow. On our system, it literally changes color to show you, when it becomes important in terms of focus. If you end it every day like that, you could go and switch off. Something my coach taught me is you actually have to give yourself permission to switch off, because you're so used to the chaos that you're sitting there thinking, I should be, what am I not doing? And you actually have to say, you know what? I give you permission to not even think about this until tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, when you get in front of the computer again. And you won't forget anything because you wrote it all down. How hard is that to do, by the way? Does anyone think that's really hard to do? So why don't we do it? Only you can take control of your time. Only you can take control of what you're doing on a regular basis. So this little plan is the critical success factors. The first thing I do every day in my plan is at the top, I review the crazy audacious goal. Even though I know what it is and I can say it out loud, I read it and I contemplate. If you work with Robin Banks and John, they'll talk to you about contemplation, okay, and how powerful it is in manifestation. So you think it through. You think, you have conversations in your head about it. You ascertain different things. What happens with this? What happens with that? You're contemplating this goal. The reason you're doing that is because your brain and your chaos is constantly going to take you away from it. So every morning, you want to remind yourself that this is the thing we should be moving towards. Not the chaos. We can't get stuck. We're moving towards this, right? And then you're going to review your major moves. For that BCAG stands for Big Crazy Audacious Goal, right? So you're going to remember that these are the 5 primary outcomes that you really want to achieve over whatever time frame. Like I said, you don't have to put a time frame to the big ones, but you've got to be moving in that direction. So you actually, every morning, starting your day by reminding yourself about what's truly most important to shift your business or life, okay? And you can do this, you can add personal things, things that aren't directly related to the business, but really what it's doing is reminding yourself about what's actually important every single day. Even if you're going to do nothing today on it, I'm still reminding myself every day that that's actually what's important. And then we review and contemplate the major moves for the year. So you can kind of adjust this, but this is what I do. So these are in a particular part of my plan that I review and contemplate every morning, just for 5 minutes. I'm not going to spend forever. Then I have a list of what I call the people list. So every day, and again, because it's date-based, I can have today's, tomorrow's, and the next few days, people that I have to firstly reach out to, and people that I'm waiting on. So this is a simple equation. People that I need to reach out to are people that I need to contact for whatever reason, to get information, to find out something. And people that I'm waiting on are people that I'm waiting to give me information or to contact me about something. And if you've got somebody you're waiting on and you expect that outcome by the end of Monday, and you get to the end of Monday and they haven't contacted you or sent you what you need, you might want to move them onto the other list of the people you have to reach out to say, hey, I'm still waiting for that thing that you said you were going to send me on Monday. So every day before you go to bed, you've made a list, and you'd be surprised how it's not that long. There's 2 people you need to reach out to and 1 person you're waiting on. So that's kind of clear because we often forget to make the damn phone call. We often forget to make the connection because of the chaos. So we make sure we see that next. Then we have our daily activities, our priority list, the things we have to do, our daily activity list. What must we do today? However, your problem, if you're similar to me, is there's too many friggin' things on your daily to-do list. So you have to prioritize it. So how do you prioritize it? So how many of you heard of Brian Tracy? Brian Tracy? Anyone? Brian, what? Who's heard of Brian Tracy? Do your research. So Brian wrote a book Brian's written 70 books on business, productivity, selling, and so the reason I say do your research is the #1 author on business development in the world. So you probably want to know who he is, right? And Brian wrote a book called Eat That Frog. And it is the #1 selling book on personal productivity in the world today. And it's like this thin. For our coach members, we have both the audio version and the ebook version in your coaching center. But it's like this thin, and it's like you can read it in an afternoon, to be honest. And it literally, and by the way, there's a summary of it inside your manual. So there's an article from Brian where he just talks about the basis of what it is. But it's all about taking this list and what he calls determining what the frog is. So there's the frog, eat the frog. So you look at that list and you say to yourself, what one thing, if I could only do one thing today, which one thing would have the greatest impact on my business and life if I completed it today? And that becomes your #1 frog. And you'll often create 2 or 3 frogs, but in order. And the rule is, once you've identified the #1 frog, that's the first thing you start doing. First thing in the morning. And you don't stop until it's completed. And if it takes the whole day to do that, it was the most important thing, the thing that would have the greatest impact in your business. Now, of course, in your lovely life of chaos where you've been disrupted every 3.5 minutes, that's going to be a struggle, right? You've got to take control of that. You can't phone me. Try phone me. My phone's permanently on silent. I don't even know how to put vibrate off because I took it off so many years ago. I don't know how to put it back on. I hate vibrate. What's the point? You might as well leave the damn thing on. Maybe if it's in your pocket, but when the people put it on the table, because if it's really urgent, you'll leave them. By the way, I don't have voicemail either, so good luck with that. If it's really urgent, you'll send me a message, okay? And I do pay attention to that, but not immediately, because it doesn't beep, because I can't hear it. I'm not going to jump up and actually do something with it. I'm basically going to see it later on. And if it's still important at that time, I might take action on it. So bottom line is, we got to identify what the frogs are. We got to take control of our time and the interruptions we have in our life, and we have to focus on that. And if all you did was the biggest frog every single day, your life would shift and move. The interesting thing about the frog as well is when you complete that frog, you are inspired to do more. So not every frog takes the whole day, right? There are often things that you're procrastinating on. There are often things that are important, but you're overwhelmed with, so you leave in them, and you're not working on them, and you keep ignoring them. And when you're doing that, you're not moving forward. Now you go and work on the stuff that's not that important. So I think of when my stepson was a youngster, and I used to cook at home, and I used to say, this is like how my mother used to say to me, you have to eat everything on your plate. So you'd get these things you don't like, and you'd get some things that, if you were lucky, you liked. Some of you might remember that kind of thing, it's like, you will not leave the table until your plate is finished. And I thought I was relatively fair. It was my stepson, with stepsons, you beat them up a little bit. I hadn't had my daughter. I remember when I had my daughter, I realized, geez, and Dylan and I are close. He was with us. He traveled to Vegas and Las Vegas with us recently. But I gave the guy a hard time, seriously. Anyone that's a step parent, especially when you married the person for the person, not for the damn kid that came with them, it's kind of challenging, right? Clearly, kids aren't my highest value. But anyway. So I used to be a little bit harsh on Dylan because, I was taking out frustrations like we do. And so I'd put the stuff in front of him and I'd say, Dylan, you've got to eat everything before you can leave the table. So now Dylan's very persistent because he clearly had no value on doing this. And so he would eat the stuff he likes, and he would then just sit there. He would try and leave, and then we say, no, you've got to carry on. He would try and sort of see if we forgot about it. And when that didn't work, he would pretend to be sick. Oh, I'm sick. Oh, I need to go to the loo, And I, like the real bastard I was, would make him sit on the table for half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour. I think of this in hindsight, like, what a bastard, you know. But this is what I was taught growing up, you know. You will eat the damn vegetables. Now, what did you do when you had this problem, like a lot of you did? Like I had that problem. I learned that if you ate the vegetables first, like this, you know, like, finished. That it took like, what, 2 minutes? I mean, you normally gulp them down as quickly as possible if you didn't vomit too quickly. You know, and then it's weird because there's things that I thought I hated as a child that I actually love as an adult, and I realized I never hated it. I just made a decision in my head that I hated it. It's the craziest thing, right? There's some things like Brussels sprouts I still hate as an adult. So please, do not give me Brussels sprouts. But the point is, I would finish all the junk, and then I would feel a sense of relief. And I could enjoy my dinner. And there was no pressure, there was no negativity. That's what eating the frogs does as well. The other frog, not just the most important thing, are what I like to call the patheticisms, the things that you've been carrying and ignoring for a long time because they're not overly important, but now they've actually become burdens because you haven't done them. And I think in my manual I talk about the junk day, where you actually take a day where you just collect all those things and you just go and do them. Get them out of the way. Because when you are overwhelmed with things that you're procrastinating over or not focusing on, you don't feel a sense of achievement. The single biggest motivating factor as a human is a sense of achievement. As long as we feel a sense of achievement, we tend to move forward. So if we finish the hardest thing first thing in the morning, we're inspired and motivated to move forward. And it makes sense when you think about it. So guys, I mean, I'm just giving you a little bit of it, but go and check it out. Eat That Frogs. Like I said, there's an article by Brian in there that explains a little bit about how to prioritize the different activities and what have you. Don't just have a list of activities, because you'll find at the end of every day, there's things that weren't completed, and you move them on to tomorrow. And if you check in a week's time, they're still on the list. In a month's time, they're still on the list. And you're sort of like, if I ignore it long enough, hopefully it'll disappear. And a year's time, by then you've probably taken them off because you've lost the business anyway. So the point is, at the end of the day, you know, take control. Don't just have a list and think you can work through it. Make sure you prioritize the list every single day.